In the early 90s, ROC was more than just a sitcom. It was a mirror reflecting the harsh reality of ordinary people struggling against poverty and pressure. But when the lights went out, fate wrote them a script far crueler than television ever could. Sudden accidents, addiction, and silent illnesses dragged many of its stars into darkness. Some lost their careers, others were forced to accept small, forgotten roles just to survive. What really happened behind the scenes? Join us as we uncover the tragedies behind the spotlight and honor the legacies they left behind. Carl Gordon as Andrew Emerson. Carl Gordon was born on January 20th, 1932, in Goochland, Virginia. When he joined ROC in 1991, he was 59 years old, playing Andrew Emerson, the grumpy yet wise widowed father whose humor anchored the family through hardship. His performance made him a familiar and comforting presence to millions, though few knew the long road that led him there. Behind the laughter lay years of turbulence. Gordon's first marriage collapsed soon after he left the U.S. Air Force in 1956, when unemployment and exhaustion pushed him into menial labor as a warehouseman and metalworker. The stress hardened him, and decades of financial instability left him bitter and withdrawn. During the civil rights era, he struggled to find steady work as a black veteran, sometimes sleeping in his car between shifts. The loneliness deepened when his second marriage disintegrated over property disputes and infidelity rumors, a heartbreak that drove him toward alcohol and isolation. At 40, standing on the edge of despair, he found what he called his divine interruption: acting. He enrolled in a community theater class and discovered, for the first time, a purpose powerful enough to silence his pain. But even success came with scars. His sudden recognition on Broadway in The Piano Lesson, 1990, brought acclaim but also guilt. He had missed years with his children, who were grown and distant by then. His third wife, Jacqueline Alston Gordon, became his anchor, nursing him through bouts of depression and heart trouble. Behind closed doors, he suffered quietly from chronic back pain and lung problems from years of smoking and factory dust exposure. By the late 2000s, the body that had survived military labor and decades of stage performance began to fail him. Years of chain smoking and physical strain led to a diagnosis of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2009. Yet even then, Gordon continued reading scripts from his bedside, determined not to let illness define his final act. Carl Gordon passed away at his home in Jetersville, Virginia, on July 20th, 2010, at the age of 78. He was laid to rest surrounded by his wife Jacqueline, 6 children, 9 grandchildren, and 5 great-grandchildren. His net worth at the time of his death was estimated at $1.2 million, a modest yet meaningful legacy built from perseverance and late-blooming artistry. Charles S. Dutton as ROC Emerson. Charles Stanley Dutton was born on January 30th, 1951, in Baltimore, Maryland. When he stepped onto the Fox set in 1991 at age 40, he embodied ROC Emerson, a hard-working Baltimore garbage man whose humor and dignity reflected the soul of the city itself. His portrayal was raw and unfiltered because it wasn't fiction. It was drawn straight from the pain of his own life. Dutton's path to fame began in the most unlikely place: a prison cell. At 19, after a fight that ended in tragedy, he was sentenced to 7 years for manslaughter. The confinement broke many men, but for him, it forged purpose. He stumbled upon a book of black plays and began staging performances for other inmates. Upon release, he earned degrees from Towson University and Yale Drama School, rising from ex-convict to acclaimed Broadway actor, but success couldn't erase the scars of confinement. He carried with him an unshakable distrust of people and an explosive temper that alienated those closest to him. His marriage to actress Debbie Morgan fell apart under the crushing weight of suspicion, distance, and fame. The collapse sent Dutton into a spiral. He drowned his guilt in alcohol and solitude, disappearing for months between film projects. He once confessed that fame felt like another kind of prison. Only this time, the walls were made of cameras. During the filming of Alien 3, 1992, he clashed violently with producers and suffered panic attacks on set. In the late 1990s, he faced legal troubles linked to drunk driving, narrowly avoiding jail thanks to court-mandated rehabilitation. It was there, he later said, that he learned forgiveness doesn't come from the crowd. It comes from inside. His performances in A Time to Kill, 1996, and The Corner, 2000, were soaked in that truth, raw, redemptive, and brutally human. The tension bled into his work. Films like Alien 3 and A Time to Kill carried the same grim intensity that haunted his private life. Stress and years of insomnia led to heart surgery in 2010, forcing him to confront his mortality. Yet he recovered, redirecting his anger into direction and advocacy, even winning Emmys for The Practice and Without a Trace. His persistence rebuilt both health and fortune through decades of acting and directing, including projects such as The Soloist, 2009. Now, Charles S. Dutton is 74 years old and still working. He lives quietly on a farm in Howard County, Maryland, occasionally appearing on stage or mentoring young actors who, like him, once had nothing but rage and potential. His current estimated net worth is $4 million, a reflection of a hard-earned career that turned pain into purpose and survival into art. Ella Joyce as Eleanor Emerson. Ella Joyce was born on June 12, 1954, in Chicago, Illinois. She joined ROC in 1991 at the age of 38, portraying Eleanor Emerson, a devoted nurse and ROC's steadfast wife whose strength often carried the family through chaos. Her warmth and sharp wit made her a perfect on-screen partner for Charles S. Dutton, and together they became one of television's most authentic couples in the America. But behind the camera, Joyce's own marriage carried pain of its own. Her union with musician Harry Beltel, begun in 1989, faltered in the mid-1990s when accusations of emotional neglect surfaced while she was quietly battling postpartum depression. Friends later revealed that the couple's fights became so volatile that she once fled a production in tears during rehearsals for a stage play. The pressure of performing while her private life unraveled nearly drove her to a nervous breakdown. After their separation in 2000, Joyce retreated from Hollywood to New York for nearly a year, living alone and writing poetry as a form of self-therapy. It was during that period that she began suffering severe anxiety attacks before auditions, which she later described as my body screaming what my voice could not. Yet out of that darkness came a creative rebirth. She poured her anguish into roles in Soul Food, 2000 to 2004, Set It Off, 1996, and Bubba Hotep, 2002. Characters who carried strength carved from suffering therapy eventually helped her confront years of unresolved trauma, and when she returned to Los Angeles, she was more measured, more grounded, and more fearless than before. The cost of endurance was high. Years of suppressed anxiety evolved into chronic panic disorder, forcing her into therapy just as her career reached new heights. She learned to balance her stage and screen commitments carefully, appearing in projects like Temptation, Confessions of a Marriage Counselor, 2013, while privately confronting her fear of collapse. Through writing and stage work, she turned pain into art, a discipline that became her quiet salvation. Now, Ella Joyce is 72 years old. She continues to perform in independent films and regional theater, often mentoring young actresses who see in her the courage to keep creating after heartbreak. Living a modest but comfortable life between Los Angeles and Detroit, she focuses on storytelling, activism, and healing. Her estimated net worth of $2.5 million stands as the fruit of decades of discipline, artistry, and survival against the odds. Rocky Carroll as Joey Emerson. Rocky Carroll was born on July 8, 1963 in Cincinnati, Ohio. At 28 years old, he joined ROC, 1991 to 1994, as Joey Emerson, ROC's ambitious younger brother, a smooth-talking jazz musician and occasional troublemaker whose dreams often collided with his brother's realism. His easy charisma and stage-trained depth made Joey one of the show's most layered characters, reflecting both talent and turmoil. In real life, Carroll's calm exterior masked years of quiet exhaustion. After his marriage to architect Adassa Del Val in 1996, their love was tested by distance. He filmed for months in Los Angeles while she remained in New York. The strain deepened when he became a household name through NCIS, forcing him to choose between fatherhood and career. In 2010, tabloids hinted at divorce after Adassa was photographed alone at a charity gala. Carroll later admitted in a 2014 interview that he had nearly lost everything during that time. The couple fought bitterly over custody of their daughter Alyssa, and the stress drove him into depression and insomnia. For months, he lived out of a hotel near the studio lot, numbing his pain with work until therapy intervened. During a demanding action shoot in 2012, Carroll suffered a severe back injury after a fall, leaving him bedridden for weeks. It was a turning point. The pain, both physical and emotional, forced him to slow down. He began meditating and stepped behind the camera to direct, saying it gave him control in a business that thrives on chaos. The shift renewed his marriage as well. By 2015, he and Adassa reconciled through couples counseling and began spending summers together in Martha's Vineyard, away from the Hollywood noise. Today, at 62 years old, Rocky Carroll remains a fixture of American television as director Leon Vance in NCIS, while occasionally directing episodes himself. He balances fame with family life, teaching his daughter the value of persistence and humility. With an estimated net worth of $3 million, he stands as a symbol of endurance, proof that even in Hollywood, reconciliation and redemption can coexist with success. Alexis Fields as Sheila Hendricks. Alexis Fields was born on March 1, 1982, in California. When she appeared on ROC in 1994 as Sheila Hendricks, she was just 12 years old, the youngest member of the cast, playing a sweet, curious neighborhood girl who often brought humor and innocence to the show's heavier adult themes. Behind the bright smile, Alexis faced the crushing weight of legacy. As a child actor surrounded by veteran performers, she carried the burden of perfection. Teachers remembered her crying quietly between takes, terrified of disappointing her mother or being compared to Kim. By her late teens, the constant pressure to live up to her family name had left invisible scars. During her Moesha years, she endured body shaming in the press, with tabloids cruelly mocking her weight gain. The humiliation fueled an eating disorder she kept secret for years. She later revealed that the lowest point came during Kenan and Kel, when she fainted on set after days of skipping meals, forcing the production to shut down temporarily. Her private life offered little refuge. While her older sister Kim found stability and success, Alexis struggled with a revolving door of failed relationships. Boyfriends who either exploited her fame or resented it. By the early 2000s, the pressure pushed her to the brink of quitting Hollywood altogether. She moved back to her mother's home. Trading premieres for peace therapy became her lifeline. Through healing, she began writing and speaking out about the exploitation of child actors, becoming a quiet advocate for mental health awareness in the entertainment industry. Marriage offered her a new kind of peace. In 2006, she married Kevin Jackson, a relationship that gave her stability after years of uncertainty. Together, they welcomed 2 children, Casey and Caden, and Alexis slowly stepped back from Hollywood. Yet, like many child actors, the adjustment was difficult. She battled postpartum depression after her first child's birth in 2008 and spoke openly about the loneliness of fame fading away. But instead of collapsing, she reinvented herself, turning toward motherhood, writing, and advocacy for child performers facing industry burnout. Now, at 43 years old in 2025, Alexis Fields lives quietly in Los Angeles, balancing occasional TV appearances with family life. She mentors young actors and works behind the scenes as a producer, finally embracing a career on her own terms. Her estimated net worth of $2 million reflects a lifetime in television. But more importantly, it represents a woman who overcame comparison, silence, and fear to find peace in her own identity. Jaime Foxx as Crazy George. Jaime Foxx, born Eric Marlon Bishop on December 13, 1967, in Terrell, Texas, was only 24 years old when he appeared on ROC between 1991 and 1994 as Crazy George, a fast-talking, unpredictable friend whose chaotic humor stole scenes and hinted at the future brilliance behind the character. At the time, Foxx was a rising comedian on In Living Color, still hustling for recognition in Hollywood. This role helped him a new turning point in the career. But behind the fame, Foxx's personal life has been shadowed by heartbreak and inner conflict. His relationships, including a long and secretive romance with actress Katie Holmes, were marked by distance and public scrutiny. After that, he carried silent guilt and exhaustion from decades of overwork and emotional repression. Despite his outward charisma, Foxx often confessed in interviews that success had isolated him, making him wary of trust, especially after lawsuits, rumors, and betrayals within the industry. The collapse came in 2023. During the filming of a new project, Foxx suddenly lost consciousness, a brain bleed leading to a stroke that nearly ended his life. For weeks, tabloids speculated, and rumors of his death spread online. But the truth was far grimmer. Foxx could not walk, speak clearly, or even recognize himself in the mirror. Months in a Chicago rehab center followed, where he relearned the simplest things: walking, smiling, remembering lines. In his 2024 Netflix special, he described the experience with tears in his eyes. "I saw death, but it wasn't ready for me." He spoke openly about his fear, saying that surviving the stroke taught me to live slower, love deeper, and thank God every morning. Now, at 57 years old, Jaime Foxx stands as one of Hollywood's most accomplished survivors, an Oscar, Grammy, and Golden Globe winner who still performs, directs, and produces. He lives quietly in California, close to his daughters Corinne and Annalise, focusing on health, family, and faith after years of turbulence. His estimated net worth of $170 million reflects not only decades of creative triumphs across film, music, and television, but also the resilience of a man who faced death, loss, and scandal, and still found his way back to life. Garrett Morris as Wiz. Garrett Morris was born on February 1, 1937, in New Orleans, Louisiana. When he appeared on ROC in the early 1990s, he was already 54 years old. A veteran performer cast as Wiz, the streetwise friend with a sharp tongue and a soulful sense of humor. His presence brought warmth and comic timing to the show, grounding it with the authenticity of a man who had seen life from every angle. But behind the laughter, Morris carried invisible scars. During his SNL years, he was trapped in a system that often reduced him to stereotypes: bellboys, pimps, and token roles that mocked rather than celebrated black identity. He later admitted those years left him feeling humiliated and voiceless, despite being a classically trained singer from Juilliard. The rejection hardened him, and his confidence began to erode. His personal life mirrored that struggle. His marriage to Frida Morris, which began in 1996, was filled with love but also distance, marked by long separations and emotional fatigue. Hollywood's instability weighed heavily on them, and by the early 2000s, divorce papers were quietly filed. The darkest chapter came in 1994, when Morris was shot during a violent robbery in Los Angeles. The bullet tore through his chest, leaving him critically wounded and fighting for his life. Doctors warned he might never fully recover, yet his spirit refused to die. The months that followed were brutal: surgeries, therapy, and a creeping depression that made him question whether returning to show business was even possible. But against all odds, he did. When he reappeared as Stan Winters on Martin, 1992 to 1995, and later as Uncle Junior on The Jaime Foxx Show, 1996 to 2001. Now, Garrett Morris is 88 years old, one of Hollywood's oldest living comedy legends. Though slowed by age, he still performs stand-up occasionally, often in the same small clubs where his journey began. In 2024, he finally received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a moment of long-delayed recognition. His estimated net worth of $1 million may not rival modern stars, but his legacy is priceless. The story of a man who broke barriers, outlived bullets, and kept America laughing through every wound he ever carried. Hugh Dane as Fred. Hugh Anthony Dane was born on October 21, 1942, in Phoenix, Arizona. When he joined ROC in the early 1990s, at the age of 49, he played Fred, a kind, soft-spoken friend whose humor and quiet dignity balanced the show's heavier moments. Though his role lasted only 4 episodes, his warmth on screen left a lasting impression. But behind the camera, his life was marked by heartbreak and silence. His first marriage to Donesther Dane in the 1960s began with youthful promise but crumbled under the weight of his military service. Long separations and trauma from his time in uniform left emotional scars that neither could heal. When he remarried in the 1980s, Gail Marie Brown Mullen brought light back into his life, until her sudden death in the 1990s shattered it again. The loss plunged him into despair. Alcohol became both comfort and curse. By the late 1990s, Dane had nearly given up. His acting agent stopped calling, and he was living out of a small apartment in Los Angeles, surviving on minor guest roles in shows like Boy Meets World and Sister, Sister. But acting, the very thing he once viewed as work, became the lifeline that saved him. When he landed the role of Hank in The Office, it resurrected not just his career, but his sense of purpose. By 2017, Dane faced his final and cruelest test, stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He kept the diagnosis private, refusing pity. Even as chemotherapy weakened his body, he continued to audition, telling friends he wanted to die doing what made him feel alive. When his health deteriorated, he whispered to a friend, "Tell them I made it farther than I thought I would." On May 16, 2018, in Los Angeles, Hugh Dane passed away at 75. His estimated net worth at the time of his passing was $900,000, earned from decades of humble, persistent work, a modest fortune for a man whose true wealth was measured in kindness, endurance, and quiet dignity. Clifton Powell as Andre Thompson. Clifton Powell was born on March 16, 1956, in Washington, D.C. He joined ROC in the early 1990s at age 35, playing Andre Thompson, a confident, street-smart character whose fiery energy often collided with ROC's moral seriousness. Powell's performance stood out for its realism, rooted in his own experiences growing up in the rough Mayfair Mansions neighborhood. It was one of the early roles that shaped his long career in both film and television. But fame came with turbulence. Powell's marriage to Kimberly was tested by years of separation and rumors. His growing workload, often filming multiple projects at once, strained their family life, and he later admitted that his dedication to acting nearly cost me my marriage. The emotional stress deepened as he faced controversy over typecasting and financial instability between film roles. Despite the chaos, Powell delivered unforgettable performances in Menace to Society, 1993, Dead Presidents, 1995, and Ray, 2004, earning an NAACP Image Award nomination and critical respect. Later, he channeled that frustration into mentoring young black actors, determined to give others what he never had, stability and guidance. Over time, reconciliation with his wife and children brought him peace, though his private struggles never fully disappeared. Now, Clifton Powell is 69 years old and continues to act in television dramas such as Saints and Sinners and The Family Business. His estimated net worth of $500,000 reflects a steady, hard-won career built not on superstardom, but on endurance. For Powell, success was never about riches. It was about survival, redemption, and proving that talent could outlast the pain that shaped it. Joan Pringle as Maddie. Joan Pringle was born on June 2, 1945, in Harlem, New York. She was 46 years old when she joined ROC, 1991 to 1994, as Maddie, a poised, intelligent woman whose presence brought balance and quiet wisdom to the show's urban chaos. Her steady, grounded energy gave emotional depth to a sitcom known for its social conscience. But away from the camera, her life was shadowed by love and loss. Her first marriage to actor Theodore "Teddy" Wilson, known from Good Times and That's My Mama, was both a creative partnership and a personal bond. When Wilson died suddenly in 1991, Pringle's world collapsed. She had just finished filming Generations and was left raising their twins, Robert and Nicole, while drowning in grief. Yet she battled insomnia, loneliness, and survivor's guilt, later admitting in interviews that she never fully recovered from Teddy's death. Years later, Pringle found stability again when she married producer Vernon L. Bowling in 1998. But the years of emotional strain had taken a toll. The long nights of filming and relentless pressure to stay visible in Hollywood's ageist landscape led to exhaustion and chronic anxiety. She overcame chain smoking, a habit she quit in 1979, and replaced it with meditation and writing, turning pain into creative strength. Her later roles in One-on-One, Girlfriends, and Being Mary Jane reflected a woman who had learned to channel wisdom from heartbreak. Now, at 80 years old, Joan Pringle remains active in Los Angeles' theater community, occasionally appearing in independent films while mentoring young black actresses. With an estimated net worth of $1 million, her legacy is not measured in fame or fortune, but in endurance, proof that even after decades of struggle, dignity can still shine brighter than tragedy. So, which of these rock stars' stories surprised you the most? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories.